All right, welcome back to another episode of Diabetes 180. We'll give everyone a few moments to join. As a reminder, we have a chat that's always live during our sessions. If you missed watching this live, then you could always watch it on the playback. We won't be able to answer your questions, obviously, live, but I try my best to review the chat and see what questions you're asking. Today's topic is right there, as always. So you can see foods that boost mitochondria. I'm going to start off real simple by helping us to understand why it's important, why you should care about your mitochondria. So that's going to be the majority of what we'll talk about during these next 20 minutes or so. And then I'll go into the foods that boost mitochondrial function. All right. So again, if you have questions, leave them in the chat. I always like to know who's watching with me. So if you're not too shy to let us know you're watching, then of course send a greeting in the chat. Not everyone can see what you're saying. These lives are broadcasted on multiple platforms, so not every platform obviously you can see is visible by other platforms. So, but yes, feel free to let us know you're watching, where you're watching from, who you are. I always like to greet my viewers. What I was going to say, yeah, we're changing things up a little bit. As far if you noticed, I'm using different video format. That's because I want to start broadcasting more on Instagram. So of course, Instagram is mainly a phone app. So usually I have this in landscape. We're going to do it I guess it's a portrait view. Let me know if it works for you guys. I don't know. Hopefully you guys can see me good. You can see my banner, 250 plus recipes. If you haven't gotten your recipes, then shame on you. They're free. And so I don't know why you haven't gotten them yet. All links to things like our recipes are always in the description section of our lives. You'll find them on our YouTube channel page. Where else? You'll find it on our Facebook page. You can just email me, message me if you haven't got your free recipes at this point. I feel like everybody who watches Diabetes 180 should have a copy of these awesome recipes. I mean, there's so many, so that you could have variety in your meals. All right, Kristen from Tennessee. All right, yeah, good evening, Christine Kaiser. So thanks so much for being the first to join on. I think we have a few others that are watching. Hello to you guys, even though you're maybe a little too shy to say who you are. Actually, I don't know, Christine, if we know each other from Tennessee. I lived in Chattanooga for about 10 years. So I don't know if you're not in that area. The name of my channel, Diabetes 180. So Diabetes 180, you could find that on YouTube and other platforms as well. Diabetes 180. So thank you, Christine, for joining. We have a few more minutes. I try to keep my live short, by the way. This one's going to be pretty short and sweet, though. Yeah. You're an hour from Chattanooga. Awesome. Okay, cool. Chattanooga is a great place, man. If I can move back to anywhere, I mean, I've been to a lot of places up and down the East Coast. So Chattanooga has always been one of my favorites. So it's always thinks it's very friendly environment. Traffic gets pretty crazy. I think there's a lot of people have moved from the time I used to live there till now. There's a lot of people in Chattanooga area. That's one thing I probably would say is a detractor for me, but it's a beautiful city for sure, full of beautiful people. All right. Who else is watching? Where are you guys watching from? Let me know. All right. So we can greet you. Don't be shy. We're here to learn together, grow together, get to know each other. All right. We have our lives every evening around this time. I'm not saying every evening. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I just came from the gym, so I don't know if I'm sweating much, but yeah, I'm a little fatigued from a hard workout session, literally 5 minutes ago. So a little less. There's not as much oxygen in my brain right now. Every Monday at 7 p.m. Every Monday at 7 p.m. is when you can join us for these lives where we cover a multitude of health conditions. But what's beautiful is that even though our company is called Diabetes 180 because we specialize in diabetes reversal, the lifestyle that has been proven to reverse diabetes is also good for other chronic conditions. We'll talk about that at the end of our show tonight, an opportunity to be part of a live webinar coming up at the end of the month. All right. Patricia, watching from Anderson, Indiana. Awesome. Never been out there. but I'm sure it's nice. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is foods that boost mitochondria. But I think first off, it makes sense to describe, just basically talk about why it's important, why you should care about what foods boost your mitochondria. First off, do we know what mitochondria is? Does anyone know what it is? Does anyone remember biology class in high school? If you paid attention, biology was one of my favorite classes, so I definitely remember always enjoy learning about organelles. Organelles are tiny organs within the cell that have specific functions. Organelles like mitochondria are huge, 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 huge. So we're going to talk about mitochondria, why it's so important, and then we're going to go into our last slide. Is very short slide on the foods you should be eating to boost its function. All right. So Becky, watching from Maryland, yep, lived in Maryland. Yep, yep. So Maryland's another great state, minus the traffic. All right, and yeah, Christine, you're right. They're within our cells, our mitochondrial function. All right, and it is responsible for energy. You're all right. So we did pay attention in biology class. All right. Joan, greetings from Boston, Massachusetts. Awesome. Thanks for joining us tonight. All right. So why should we care about mitochondria? Yes, just like Christine just aptly said, mitochondria is responsible for energy. Okay. So what, right? Mitochondria is known as the biochemical energy factory of every cell. Every cell in our body has mitochondria, minus red blood cells. Red blood cells do not, but every single cell other than red blood cells have mitochondria in them to drive their cellular function. Okay, some cells have hundreds, others have thousands of mitochondria, little tiny organelles within the body. All right, and what's amazing is that mitochondria is responsible for not just keeping our bodies energized, okay, and keep us moving and going, but keeping us healthy, right? Keeping us healthy. Now, I want to show a really easy to relate analogy, okay, of how important a mitochondria is to our body. Okay, I want to equate it to an Amazon warehouse. Now, I like to use this analogy of the Amazon warehouse because we're going to talk a little bit next week about autophagy. Okay, autophagy is basically how our cells reset and recycle debris and other damage that's accumulated over time to basically rejuvenate our cells and keep them young and functional. All right, but and I'm going to use the Amazon warehouse next week as an analogy to describe what that is and what we can do to boost it in our body. But think of an Amazon warehouse. I don't know if anyone's worked at Amazon before. I know there used to be one of those holiday jobs everyone used to be applying, running to try to get because they pay such good bonuses. But they're seasonal for a reason because a lot of people can only handle the work of an Amazon warehouse for a season, because they work you down to your bones. Anyone who knows somebody who has worked in an Amazon warehouse, or if you worked in an Amazon warehouse yourself, it is a busy place, right? It's a busy warehouse or factory, right? Where there's a lot of hustle, a lot of bustle, a lot of moving parts, literally, a lot of moving people, right? It takes coordination, it takes skill, it takes timing, right? To get those deliveries, those products and boxes and those boxes out to the trucks and the trucks to deliver to their location, right? Amazon warehouse, these hubs are a bustle of a beehive of activity. Now, I want to, in staying with this analogy, okay, we're talking about mitochondria still. We're talking about mitochondria still. What do you think is key for this warehouse to remain optimal function? All right, what is key? All right, I'll just go ahead and say it for time's sake. It's energy, right? No, you and you could argue, of course, the people, the management, right? The people who are working there are important, right? There's jobs for everybody, but if the power goes out in the warehouse, work shuts down, right? It doesn't matter how much skilled laborers are there. It doesn't matter how intentional, management is at coordinating the task and dividing responsibilities. If the power goes out in the warehouse shuts down. Okay. Even worse, if let's say the power doesn't go out in the warehouse, but it kind of speeds up and slows down at random, right? Imagine the conveyor belts on Amazon work, I guess, setting, just speeding up and slowing down at random. You don't know how quick to pick a box up or put it down, because the power in this warehouse is dysfunctional and unreliable. Okay, this is what happens when our mitochondria becomes dysfunctional. The multiple parts, and because our body is, as like the Bible says, fearfully and wonderfully made, right? So much interconnected parts, so many different chemical reactions, right, that are coordinated with each other, cells and organs that are coordinating with each other, right? All functions of our body are powered by mitochondria. When mitochondria becomes dysfunctional, all parts of our body become dysfunctional. Okay, it's not something to take lightly when you have unhealthy mitochondria in your body. And I would even go as far as to say is that dysfunctional mitochondria is a reason why we age and get chronic diseases, because the powerhouse of every cell starts to shut down. Then the functions and responsibilities of those cells also shut down. And also, I'll prove this here with a study that I found was really interesting. With lab rats, the poor lab rats, that are subject to experimentation for our education. This experiment was really interesting. So what they did is they took two rats, or I guess a set of rats, a group that was of young rats and a group of old rats. In the young rats, they took out about 10 to 15 mitochondria, and they put it inside a human cell. So they took young mitochondria, not much. And to give you an idea, 10 to 15 mitochondria is nothing, right? So 10 to 50 of tiny pieces of mitochondria in one human cell. And human cells can have anywhere from hundreds to thousands of mitochondria. So it's not much. So 10 to 15 of these little tiny organelles, mitochondria, they put it from a young rat inside a human cell. Nothing happened. Okay. But then what they did, they took the next group of rats, older rats, right, which would obviously have older mitochondria, okay? And of course, mitochondria, just like many other things in our body, do become less functional with age. As we age, mitochondrial function and number goes down. The number of mitochondria we have and the function of mitochondria also goes down. I hope everyone's following me. Let me know if I'm losing anybody. But this is amazing what happened when they took the old mitochondria from these old rats and put it inside the human cells. Within days, the human cells started to show signs of degeneration. Just 10 to 15 old mitochondria, okay, old batteries, hooked up to this human cell, and within days, the cell's function started to decline. So that shows you how important it is to have healthy functioning mitochondria. I mean, another way to think of it is as who wants old batteries in their body, in their toy or in their product, right? It doesn't matter how new something is. If you put old or dysfunctional batteries in it, it does not operate optimally. Okay. So I hope you guys are following this. If you want to operate optimally, who wants to operate optimally? Who wants to be healthy, energetic, and lively, chronic disease free? I hope everyone's hands is up, because I definitely want to. So we should know what is necessary to keep our mitochondria healthy, our cells' batteries healthy, so that we could stay energetic and healthy, right? And of course, we probably should have a live in the future on the certain foods or lifestyle, that causes the dysfunction in the first place. Of course, we all get older. That's not going to stop. Unfortunately, I don't know the secret to stop aging, but as we get older, of course, mitochondrial function and number goes down. But we have a lot to do to determine how fast that happens. Okay, I'm with you, Christine. Yep. All right, so before we go to the foods, again, we're going to end with the foods that boost mitochondria. I want to talk a little bit more about why it's so important to care, okay, to really pay attention to what we're sharing. All right, and so we already showed that old batteries, old mitochondria cause our cells to decline and degenerate fast, right, very fast. So you can imagine that many chronic diseases, metabolic dysfunctions, are linked to mitochondrial dysfunction. As mitochondria becomes dysfunctional, so is our ability to process nutrients, to digest and absorb nutrients, right? To make vitamins, to produce energy, right? It starts to decline over time. All right. And not just before I go into this, I just want to read a comment we got. My 25-year-old daughter already has poor mitochondrial function, so she's listening. Awesome. I'm glad she's listening. Yep, definitely keep watching. So just thinking about, we're going to talk about a few organs that are important when it comes to mitochondria. But of course, since this is a channel that focuses and centers on diabetes health, I'm going to pick out muscles, liver, and pancreas. Okay, muscles, liver, and pancreas. Many people still don't realize that mitochondrial dysfunction leads to insulin resistance, and insulin resistance leads to mitochondrial dysfunction. It's a two-way street. Okay, so think about it this way. So as we already established, as mitochondria becomes dysfunctional, so do the functions of every organ and cell and tissues, right? Muscle cells, right? They're responsible for our movement, right? They require a lot of energy. Muscle cells has thousands. I mean, probably the most compared to other organs, has the most demand for energy, right? Because every day we need muscles to move us from one location to the other, right? And it requires mass production of energy to continue that movement throughout life. So you can imagine as our mitochondria ages and becomes dysfunctional, so is our ability to move, right? Then we start to get older, we start to become more, I should say, disabled or moving. Our energy we start to slow down as our energy becomes compromised. It's harder to do things that you were able to do before, a lot faster, right? We just slow down, right? As our mitochondria becomes dysfunctional, so does our muscle function, right? In our ability to perform tasks. I don't know if anyone is with me and knows what that feels like, right? So now, how does that tie to diabetes? Another thing that that muscle cells are in high demand for is glucose, right? So muscles need, of course, ATP that's produced by mitochondria as a sort of currency for energy. Muscles also need glucose. So when the muscles are no longer functioning at peak capacity, now their ability to respond to an incoming rush of carbs from your diet, and the breakdown of other nutrients like fatty acids and amino acids, now our muscles are suffering in that they no longer can communicate with the body in a way to process and use that glucose, right? What we call this insulin resistance. Insulin's job is to escort glucose into cells like our muscles, but now it's being resisted, right? And the same thing happens in our liver. Our liver, which is responsible for thousands of functions, right? Each cell is responsible for so many things, right? One of those things that's responsible for is the uptake of nutrients and the distribution of nutrients, right? Where to put that glucose, when to package it and store it as glycogen, when to store it and actually transition it to fat storage. How much fat is exported, how much or taken out of the blood and stored in the liver. The production of proteins from amino acids. There's so many things that must be decided by the liver. So when the liver starts to become dysfunctional, from, again, going back to the Amazon warehouse analogy, as those batteries start to drain, right, and the number of those batteries start to go down, the liver function goes down. What happens when the liver starts slowing down? Now work is backed up to the pancreas, right? The pancreas, which you can see is so close to the liver, now it also becomes dysfunctional. What happens when the pancreas is dysfunctional, right? Now, what's pancreas' job? One of the main jobs of the pancreas is obviously to produce insulin. The insulin that communicates to the body, to the muscles, to every organ and tissue and cell on how much glucose to uptake from the blood. Now it's becoming dysfunctional. Your liver is resisting insulin. Your muscles and other tissues in your body are resisting insulin. This is why mitochondrial dysfunction leads to diabetes. And it's a slippery slope, because as we become insulin resistant, the state of insulin resistance puts our body in a state of inflammation. Our body does not like inflammation. This inflammation puts more stress on our mitochondria, which makes our mitochondria more dysfunctional. And it's a vicious cycle. Okay, it's a vicious cycle that we want to escape. All right. So now I know what you're thinking, Lewis. All right, I get it. We need to take care of mitochondria. I get it. So tell me what to eat. All right, just fast forward. All right, we'll go to that part now. But before we do, I want to put a little plug in for exercise, right? What I say just came from the gym. It's one thing I love to do 5 days a week. And there's no wrong way to exercise, but I will say that if you're looking for exercises, just like the recipes, they're in the description section always. So when you're done watching the lives or while you're watching, check the description sections if you're on Facebook or YouTube, and find the links for those services that are free. All right, freely offered. But when you exercise, this is a great way to increase not only the function of your mitochondria, but the number. Okay, so this is a little cheat before we go to the foods. Exercise is nature's #1 way to improve mitochondrial health. All right. When you exercise, this is something that blew my mind when I thought about it, when I read about it, but you actually increases your muscles' demand for energy, which makes sense. And then your body starts to produce ATP up to 100 times folds what you normally produce. So you can imagine mitochondria start to increase, right? Not only in function, but also in division and numbers. So if you want to increase your mitochondria, your energy, your cellular function, right, and your longevity, then what are you doing sitting at home? Get a gym membership, go out, hit the streets. I know it's cold outside, then get a gym membership. If you can't get a gym membership, you work out at home. Fine. We have workouts in our description section for home and gym. Okay. So that's key. If you want to increase your mitochondrial number and function, exercise. Okay. Now for the moment we were all waiting for, the foods that boost mitochondria. I have to make this a little big. I hope you guys can see this above my head here, but this is actually a slide that I got from Dr. Cyrus, I think it's Kambata. I think I'm saying his name right. Doing great things in a company called Mastering Diabetes. He put together the slide during one of his lectures. So this is beautiful. I mean, I was thinking about redoing it, but I was like, it's beautiful. Why would I redo it? But yeah, seeking these foods and increasing these foods in our diet is key. Now, it doesn't mean this list here doesn't mean that this is all the foods, exhaustive list, I should say, meaning no other foods can boost mitochondria. But it is interesting to note that they all have one thing in common. Okay, and you know what they have in common. All right. So now, one thing you could obviously say is that as you look through the list, these are on this page because there's been scientific evidence for their ability to boost mitochondrial function and number. So all these specific food items have scientific studies to back them. Okay, so that's why they made the cut, because there's actually scientific evidence, right? They've been evidence, and that's what's kind of tough with nutrition. You know, there's not a lot of money in selling people food as medicine. So there's not a lot of studies on how foods can be used as medicine. But luckily, we do have some organizations that care enough to perform these studies. And there are studies that show these are very good at increasing mitochondrial function and number. So I hope you're paying attention to this. Screenshot it. I don't know. Save this video to watch it later. But soybeans, this is I don't know if I'm saying this, cacao beans, which is basically where we get the cocoa beans, onions, apples, blueberries, red grapes, cinnamon, coffee seeds, and red grapes. And then under it is really nice, is because it is really nice that Dr. Kambata also put the phytochemical, right, the phenol that is responsible for the mitochondrial benefit. So if you find other foods that have these phenols, obviously, then you should be increasing them in your diet. And what do all these foods have in common, guys? What do these foods have in common? They're all plant-based. Okay, they're all plants. These phytochemicals, these phenols, right? These chemical structures that are found in these plants are responsible for their health benefit. You won't find the number of phytochemicals in plants. I'm sorry. Let me slow down. You won't find in animals. You won't find as much phytochemicals as you would in plants, right? Greetings, Kendra. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you watch it from the beginning. You know, we're almost wrapping up, but I want to say something that might blow your mind. I know for me, it really blew my mind. So think about this. Um, Animals, okay, how God designed us, right? If they're and we are animals, let's say we're animals, okay. Whenever there's danger in the environment, what method of defense do we have? Our primary method of defending ourselves from dangers in the environment is moving from A to B, right? Our muscles. If there's a danger in our environment, then you move them, right? You move yourself from that environment. Okay. Audrey asked a great question. Where do you find coffee beans? So I mean, I guess you're talking about like what's the best method of getting the phenols from coffee beans. That I have to research exactly if it's because I want to say that you can also get them from decaffeinated coffee beans because it's not necessary. It's not really the coffee itself, the caffeine itself that provides its health benefit, but the fact of the phenol within the bean itself, right? But what was I saying? Yeah, so yeah, if we as animals, we as human beings want to escape danger, we run. Plants don't have that luxury, right? So follow me. And this was amazing and I hope it'll be amazing to you guys when you realize this. So, how do plants defend themselves from danger? They produce chemicals. They produce chemicals. The reason why you won't find so many powerful, potent antioxidant nutrients and phytochemicals that fight diseases in animals and animal foods is because our primary defense as animals is to move, whereas primary defense of plants is chemicals, right? Right? That's why food is medicine and animal-based food is not so much, okay? Because the where we get in nature, where we get the most potent chemicals to fight off disease is from the foods that produce them. That is plants. Plants produce these chemicals because these chemicals protect them from the harmful environments, whether it be cold or heat, other predators that nibble on them. These chemicals that keep them alive also keep us alive when we eat them, right? So benefit that this is why I and we on Diabetes 180 promote a whole food plant-based diet for disease reversal, and we encourage minimizing animal-based foods because every time you sit down to eat a meal, you should ask yourself, how much medicine am I eating? That's what I ask, at least. When I sit down, I have 3 times a day, or I don't know if you eat 2 times a day, or maybe you guys are doing 1 meal a day. How often are you eating medicine and how much medicine are you eating? This is where food medicine is found. It is in foods, right? So look through this list. It's but just take note that one thing all these things have in common is that they come from the plant-based world, where nature has given us potent medicine to heal all our diseases, right? Diabetes included. So how much plants are you guys including in your diet? Right? How much plants? I hope a lot. So that's basically all we have for the night. I hope that makes sense to I hope I didn't lose anybody as far as talking about the biochemistry of mitochondria. If you have questions that I can answer, let me know. But go ahead and start making your shopping list and adding some of these to the shopping list so that you can make sure that your mitochondria is operating at optimal capacity. All right. Before we go, I always want to let you know what's going on in the Diabetes 180 company. We have a free 3-day workshop that you can sign up for either through QR code or actually I should give me a moment, put the link in. I always forget to put the link. I'm not sure if it's in the description section. So give me a moment to find the link if you want to join. Now, I know what you're thinking. A lot of people think that, well, I don't have diabetes, so that doesn't concern me. I'm good. I'm not diabetic. But here's the reality, though, folks. The method that I teach to reverse diabetes reverses the root cause of all metabolic dysfunction. That is insulin resistance. Okay. Insulin resistance is tied to metabolic dysfunctions like obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Okay. There's also studies that it's linked to things like cancer, arthritis, okay, dementia. So it does behoove you to join us for this free presentation, because all of us are subject to these things, either for prevention or reversal of these conditions, right, that are linked to insulin resistance. And what we teach is how to transition to a low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet. There's also other things we're going to cover during these 3 days, because it's not about knowing enough. Knowing is not the whole battle. It's doing. Knowing and doing is two different things. We will teach you how to put into play what we will teach you to know, if that makes sense, right? So we'll start with knowing. We'll make sure that you understand diabetes and other chronic diseases better than your doctor does. And number two, we'll give you practical tips on how to transition to this way of eating and this lifestyle. And on day 3 is where we cover food cravings, how to finally master the things that master us, so that we aren't driven by stress, that our cravings aren't driving us. We have control over them. Right. So that's what we'll be covering, some good stuff during this 3-day intensive workshop. So hope you guys check the link in the comment section of this video, or scan the QR code. That's it. That's all we got for the night, beloved. I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. We'll see you next week.